From the towering offshore wind turbines of the UK to the blazing solar fields of Zambia, the race for clean energy is reaching its most critical moment in history. The UK is betting big on wind and nuclear. Zambia is making bold moves in solar energy. But here's the question: when these two forces collide on the global stage, who will lead the future of power? Stay tuned, because what's happening right now could change how the entire world is powered. The UK is rapidly expanding its offshore wind farms and nuclear power projects, while Zambia is experiencing a record-breaking solar energy boom. In this video, we break down how these two nations are shaping the future of renewable energy, from technology and investment to global impact. Whether it's the UK's ambitious green energy race or Zambia's unstoppable solar growth, this is the clean power story the world needs to watch. Stay tuned for insights, expert analysis, and what this means for the future of power worldwide. The UK's offshore wind and nuclear power race. The United Kingdom has positioned itself as a global leader in renewable energy, particularly through its ambitious efforts in offshore wind and nuclear power. These initiatives are central to the country's commitment to achieving net zero carbon emissions by 2050, a target that reflects both environmental imperatives and economic opportunities. This section explores the UK's strategies, achievements, challenges, and future prospects in these two critical energy sectors. Offshore wind, a cornerstone of the UK's green energy strategy. The UK's offshore wind sector is a global success story, driven by favorable geography, technological advancements, and robust policy frameworks. The country's extensive coastline and strong North Sea winds provide ideal conditions for offshore wind farms, which have become a cornerstone of its renewable energy mix. As of 2025, the UK is recognized as a world leader in offshore wind, with up to 40% of its electricity balance derived from renewable sources, a significant portion of which comes from offshore wind. Achievements and scale. Capacity growth. The UK has set a target of 40 gigawatts (GW) of offshore wind capacity by 2030, a challenging but achievable goal. This ambition builds on the country's existing infrastructure, with major projects like the Dogger Bank wind farm, developed by SSE and Equinor, set to become the world's largest offshore wind farm. Economic impact. The sector supports approximately 60,000 jobs, particularly in coastal communities, and is expected to drive billions of pounds in investment. The development of a competitive supply chain, supported by investments in ports and manufacturing, has further bolstered economic benefits. Cost reductions. Offshore wind has become one of the most cost-effective renewable energy sources in the UK, thanks to technological advancements and economies of scale. Innovations in turbine design, such as larger rotor blades and floating wind platforms, have reduced costs and expanded deployment possibilities in deeper waters. Policy and regulation. The UK government has implemented policies to accelerate offshore wind deployment, including contracts for difference (CFD) schemes that guarantee stable prices for renewable energy producers, encouraging private investment. The 2020 announcement by then Prime Minister Boris Johnson emphasized offshore wind as a key component of the green industrial revolution, with a focus on regenerating coastal communities and enhancing energy security. Ofgem, the UK's energy regulator, has played a critical role in fostering a flexible and smart grid, enabling the integration of large-scale renewable energy. Challenges. Grid infrastructure. The rapid expansion of offshore wind requires significant upgrades to the national grid to handle increased capacity and ensure stability. Coordinated investment in grid infrastructure remains a priority to avoid bottlenecks. Environmental concerns. While offshore wind is a clean energy source, concerns about its impact on marine ecosystems, including bird migration and underwater noise, require careful management. The government and industry are investing in environmental monitoring and mitigation strategies. Supply chain constraints. Global demand for wind turbines and components has led to supply chain bottlenecks, particularly for rare earth metals and specialized manufacturing. The UK is working to localize production to reduce dependency on imports. Innovations in floating wind. The UK is pioneering floating wind technology, which allows turbines to be installed in deeper waters where fixed-bottom turbines are not feasible. This innovation expands the potential for offshore wind, opening up new sites and increasing capacity. The government support for floating wind projects is seen as a way to maintain global leadership in renewable innovation. Nuclear power, a stable complement to renewables. While offshore wind provides variable renewable energy, nuclear power offers a stable, low-carbon baseload to complement the UK's energy mix. The government views nuclear as critical to achieving net zero emissions, particularly for meeting demand when renewable sources like wind and solar are insufficient. Current landscape. Existing capacity. The UK currently operates several nuclear power stations, with Hinkley Point C under construction and expected to provide 3.2 gigawatts of capacity, enough to power 6 million homes. Sizewell C, another major project, is in the planning stages and will further boost capacity. Policy support. The government's 10-point plan for a green industrial revolution includes nuclear power as a key pillar, with investments in both large-scale reactors and small modular reactors (SMRs). SMRs are seen as a game-changer due to their smaller size, lower costs, and faster deployment compared to traditional reactors. Economic benefits. Nuclear projects create high-skill jobs and drive investment in regions like Somerset, Hinkley Point C, and Suffolk, Sizewell C. The sector also supports the UK's ambition to export nuclear technology and expertise globally. Challenges: high costs and delays. Nuclear projects are capital-intensive and prone to cost overruns and delays. Hinkley Point C, for example, has faced significant cost increases and construction challenges. Public perception: while nuclear power is low carbon, public concerns about safety, waste disposal, and decommissioning persist. The government is working to build trust through transparent communication and robust safety regulations. Competition with renewables. The falling costs of renewables like offshore wind have raised questions about the economic viability of nuclear power. However, its role as a reliable baseload source ensures its continued relevance. Future prospects. The UK is exploring advanced nuclear technologies, including Generation 4 reactors and fusion energy, to enhance efficiency and reduce waste. Fusion, while still in the experimental stage, could revolutionize energy production by providing near-limitless clean energy. The government's investment in research facilities like the Cullum Centre for Fusion Energy underscores its long-term commitment to nuclear innovation. Synergy between offshore wind and nuclear. The UK's energy strategy hinges on the complementary strengths of offshore wind and nuclear power. Wind provides scalable, cost-effective renewable energy, while nuclear ensures grid stability and continuous power supply. Zambia's record-breaking solar energy boom. Zambia, a landlocked nation in southern Africa, is undergoing a transformative shift in its energy sector, driven by a rapid expansion of solar power. Historically reliant on hydropower for 83% of its electricity, Zambia has faced severe energy crises due to climate-induced droughts, prompting a pivot to solar energy. This section examines the drivers, achievements, challenges, and future potential of Zambia's solar boom, which is positioning the country as a model for renewable energy development in sub-Saharan Africa. Drivers of the solar boom. Climate-induced energy crisis. Zambia's heavy dependence on hydropower has made it vulnerable to climate change, particularly droughts exacerbated by El Niño. In 2024, Southern Africa experienced its worst mid-season dry spell in over a century, decimating hydropower generation and causing blackouts lasting up to 21 hours daily. This crisis, which affected 42% of Zambians connected to the national grid, underscored the need for diversification. Solar energy, with Zambia's abundant sunlight, 2,000 to 3,000 hours annually, emerged as a resilient and cost-effective alternative. Government policies and reforms. The Zambian government, under President Hakainde Hichilema, has prioritized renewable energy to achieve universal electricity access by 2030. Key initiatives include streamlined approvals. The Ministry of Energy reduced solar project approval times from 6 months to 48 hours, attracting private investment. Renewable energy feed-in tariff. REFIT, supported by the German Development Bank KfW. The REFIT strategy promotes private investment in solar and small hydro projects, aiming to add 1,000 megawatts of solar capacity by 2025. Tax incentives. In 2024, the government removed import duties and value-added taxes on solar equipment, spurring demand for solar panels and batteries. Presidential 1,000 mini-grid initiative. This program focuses on deploying solar mini-grids in rural areas, enhancing energy access and supporting sectors like agriculture. International support. Zambia has attracted significant international investment, including a partnership with the UAE's Masdar to develop 2,000 megawatts of solar power, an $8 million concessional loan for the African Development Bank's Sustainable Energy Fund for Africa, CEFA, for the 25 megawatts Ilut solar plant, a pilot for innovative energy aggregator models. Support from the UK's British International Investment (BII) and the Africa Regional Climate and Nature Programme (ARCAN), which aim to connect millions to clean energy. Achievements. Capacity expansion. Zambia's installed solar capacity grew from 76 megawatts in 2023 to 94 megawatts in 2024, driven by projects like the Kitwe solar plants, Itimpi, and Riverside. Major utility-scale projects such as the 47.5 megawatts Bangulu solar power station, operated by Neoen and First Solar, and the 34 megawatts Nonai solar power station, operated by Enel Green Power, have increased grid reliability. The Ilut solar plant, expected to come online soon, will add 25 megawatts and serve as a model for regional energy trading through the Southern African power pool. Socio-economic impact. Rural electrification. Solar mini-grids are transforming rural communities where only 4.4 to 11% of the population has electricity access. Projects like the Solar for Health Initiative power over 400 health facilities, ensuring reliable electricity for medical equipment. Agricultural productivity. Solar-powered irrigation systems are supporting Zambia's ambition to become a regional breadbasket by enabling modern farming practices. Job creation. The solar sector is creating jobs in manufacturing, installation, and maintenance, particularly for youth and rural communities. Environmental benefits. By reducing reliance on hydropower and coal, which contributes 9% to the energy mix, solar projects are lowering greenhouse gas emissions and mitigating deforestation caused by charcoal use, a byproduct of power shortages. Challenges. Infrastructure and logistics. Importing solar panels, primarily from China, China, 55% of Africa's supply market, is time-consuming and costly, delaying project timelines. Many solar mini-grids are oversized or undersized due to poor planning, leading to inefficiencies. Financial sustainability. High capital and operational costs make economic tariffs unaffordable for rural populations with low incomes. Subsidies for private sector projects are often misaligned with community needs, reducing long-term sustainability. Dependence on weather. While solar is less vulnerable to drought than hydropower, it is still weather-dependent, requiring robust energy storage solutions to ensure continuous power. Charcoal and coal reliance. The 2024 drought increased demand for charcoal, accelerating deforestation and carbon emissions. The government's approval of new coal-fired power plants, including an expansion of an existing facility, reflects short-term energy security needs but conflicts with long-term sustainability goals. Future prospects. Zambia's solar boom is poised to accelerate, with plans to add 1,000 megawatts of solar capacity by the end of 2025. The Africa Mini-Grids program, funded by the Global Environment Facility, is promoting innovative business models to scale solar mini-grids. Additionally, Zambia's participation in regional initiatives, such as the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit's MOU for an electric vehicle battery value chain, positions it as a key player in the global energy transition. The government's National Green Growth Strategy emphasizes diversifying the energy mix with solar, wind, and geothermal to enhance climate resilience and energy security. If these efforts are sustained, Zambia could achieve universal electricity access by 2030, setting a model for other African nations facing similar challenges. Technology driving the green revolution. The global shift to renewable energy, exemplified by the UK's offshore wind and nuclear advancements and Zambia's solar boom, is underpinned by transformative technologies. This section explores the key technological innovations driving the green revolution, their applications, and their potential to reshape the energy landscape. Key technologies. 1. Offshore wind technologies. Larger turbines. Modern offshore wind turbines, such as those used in the UK's Dogger Bank project, feature larger rotor blades up to 107 meters and higher capacities up to 15 megawatts per turbine, increasing energy output and efficiency. Floating wind platforms. Floating turbines anchored to the seabed enable deployment in deeper waters, expanding the geographic scope of offshore wind. The UK's investment in floating wind is driving global innovation. Digital integration. Advanced sensors and AI optimize turbine performance, predict maintenance needs, and integrate wind farms into smart grids, enhancing reliability and reducing costs. 2. Solar photovoltaic (PV) advancements. High-efficiency panels. Innovations in monocrystalline and bifacial solar panels have increased efficiency, allowing Zambia to maximize energy output from limited land. Energy storage. Lithium-ion batteries and emerging technologies like flow batteries address solar's intermittency, ensuring consistent power supply. Zambia's Solar for Health project relies on storage to power medical facilities. Mini-grids and off-grid systems. Modular solar mini-grids, like those in Zambia's presidential 1,000 mini-grid initiative, provide scalable solutions for rural electrification. 3. Nuclear innovations. Small modular reactors, SMRs. SMRs offer lower costs, faster construction, and flexibility compared to traditional reactors. The UK is investing in SMRs to complement its renewable energy mix. Fusion energy. While still experimental, fusion energy promises near-limitless clean power. The UK's Culham Centre is a global leader in fusion research, with potential breakthroughs by 2040. Advanced fuel cycles. Generation 4 reactors aim to reduce nuclear waste and improve efficiency, addressing long-standing concerns about nuclear power. 4. Energy storage and grid modernization. Battery storage. Large-scale battery systems, such as Tesla's Megapack, store excess renewable energy for use during low generation periods. Zambia's solar projects increasingly incorporate storage to mitigate intermittency. Smart grids. AI-driven smart grids, as implemented in the UK, optimize energy distribution, reduce losses, and integrate diverse energy sources. Hydrogen technology. Green hydrogen, produced using renewable energy, is emerging as a versatile energy carrier. Sub-Saharan Africa's abundant renewables make it a potential hub for green hydrogen production. 5. Cross-sector applications. Electrification of transport. Electric vehicle (EV) battery value chains, supported by Zambia's MOU with the US and DRC, leverage renewable energy to decarbonize transport. Agricultural technology. Solar-powered irrigation and mechanization, as seen in Zambia, enhance food security and resilience to climate change. Energy efficiency. Smart appliances, building codes, and industrial optimization reduce energy waste, amplifying the impact of renewable energy. Impact on the green revolution. These technologies are driving the green revolution by reducing costs. Falling costs of solar, wind, and battery storage have made renewables competitive with fossil fuels. Global investments in these technologies have increased exponentially, enhancing access. Off-grid solar solutions and mini-grids are bringing electricity to remote areas, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, where 600 million people lack access. Mitigating climate change. By replacing fossil fuels, these technologies reduce greenhouse gas emissions, aligning with global targets like the Paris Agreement. Fostering innovation. Research and development in AI, hydrogen, and fusion are creating new industries and jobs, particularly in countries like the UK with strong R&D ecosystems. Challenges. Supply chain bottlenecks. Global demand for rare earth metals, semiconductors, and solar panels strain supply chains, particularly for landlocked nations like Zambia. Technological maturity. Emerging technologies like fusion and green hydrogen require further development to achieve commercial viability. Equity and access. Ensuring that technological benefits reach marginalized communities such as Zambia's rural farmers requires targeted policies and financing. Global impact of UK and Zambia's energy strategies. The energy strategies of the UK and Zambia, while contextually distinct, have significant global implications. The UK's leadership in offshore wind and nuclear power sets a precedent for developed nations, while Zambia's solar boom offers lessons for developing countries, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa. This section examines their combined impact on global energy transitions, climate goals, and socio-economic development. UK's global influence. Setting a standard for net zero. The UK's commitment to net zero emissions by 2050, backed by its offshore wind and nuclear investments, positions it as a model for other developed nations. Hosting COP26 in 2021 reinforced its role as a climate leader, with initiatives like the Global Clean Power Alliance promoting international collaboration. Economic and technological leadership. The UK's advancements in floating wind and SMRs are driving global innovation, with potential for technology exports to countries transitioning to renewables. Investments in ports and supply chains create a blueprint for integrating renewable energy into economic recovery, particularly post-COVID-19. International partnerships. Through programs like the Africa Regional Climate and Nature Programme, ARCAN, and British International Investment, BII, the UK is supporting clean energy projects in Africa, including Zambia. Its £8.5 million contribution to the African Development Bank (CEFA) is unlocking private investment in solar mini-grids and clean cooking technologies. These efforts enhance energy access, create jobs, and align with global sustainable development goals. Zambia's regional and global impact. A model for sub-Saharan Africa. Zambia's rapid pivot to solar energy offers a replicable model for African nations facing similar hydropower vulnerabilities. Its national green growth strategy and partnerships with international investors demonstrate how policy reforms and financing can accelerate renewable adoption. Economic transformation. Zambia's solar projects are boosting GDP and labor demand, with projections suggesting a 0.8% increase in annual GDP growth with $25 billion in annual climate finance. The focus on rural electrification and agricultural productivity supports food security and economic resilience, addressing global challenges like poverty and climate adaptation. Regional energy integration. Zambia's participation in the Southern African Power Pool and initiatives like the Alut Solar Plant's energy aggregator model promote cross-border energy trading, enhancing regional energy security. Combined global impact. Climate mitigation. Together, the UK and Zambia contribute to global decarbonization by scaling low-carbon technologies. The UK's reduction of power sector emissions by nearly 70% since 1990 and Zambia's shift from coal and charcoal to solar align with the Paris Agreement's goals. Economic opportunities. Both nations are creating jobs and investment opportunities, with the UK's supply chain development and Zambia's solar projects fostering local economies. These efforts demonstrate how green energy can drive sustainable economic growth globally. Knowledge sharing. The UK's regulatory expertise and Zambia's experience with off-grid solar and hydropower offer valuable lessons. Bilateral partnerships, such as those through CEFA and BII, facilitate knowledge transfer, benefiting other nations pursuing energy transitions. Challenges to global impact. Financing gaps. Developing nations like Zambia require sustained climate finance to scale renewables, while developed nations must balance domestic and international commitments. Policy alignment. Global coordination is needed to avoid conflicting priorities, such as Zambia's short-term reliance on coal, which undermines climate goals. Technology access. Ensuring equitable access to advanced technologies remains a challenge, particularly for resource-constrained nations. The future of power. Who will lead? The question of who will lead the future of power is complex, involving technological, economic, geopolitical, and environmental factors. The UK and Zambia, while operating in different contexts, provide insights into the broader competition for energy leadership. This section explores potential leaders, their strategies, and the factors shaping the future. Potential leaders. 1. Developed nations, e.g. UK, EU, US. Strengths. Advanced economies like the UK have the financial resources, technological expertise, and policy frameworks to drive innovation. The UK's leadership in offshore wind and nuclear, coupled with its global partnerships, positions it as a frontrunner. Challenges. High costs of nuclear projects and competition from cheaper renewables in other regions could limit their dominance. Additionally, political shifts and public perception may affect long-term commitments. 2. Emerging economies, e.g. China, India. Strengths. China's dominance in solar panel manufacturing, 55% of Africa's supply, and India's rapid renewable expansion make them strong contenders. China's Belt and Road Initiative has funded energy projects in countries like Zambia, enhancing its influence. Challenges: environmental concerns and debt sustainability issues, as seen in Zambia's $30 billion debt crisis, could hinder China's model. 3. African nations, e.g. Zambia, Kenya. Strengths: Africa's abundant renewable resources, solar, wind, geothermal, and growing policy reforms position it as a potential leader. Zambia's solar boom and Kenya's geothermal success highlight the continent's potential. Challenges: limited financing, infrastructure deficits, and reliance on external technology constrain Africa's ability to lead independently. 4. Global collaborations. Initiatives like the Global Clean Power Alliance and the Africa Mini-Grids program suggest that leadership may come from collaborative efforts rather than a single nation. Partnerships between developed and developing nations, as seen in UK-Zambia cooperation, could drive equitable progress. Factors shaping leadership. 1. Technological innovation. Countries that pioneer scalable, cost-effective technologies, e.g. floating wind, fusion, green hydrogen, will lead. The UK's investments in SMRs and fusion research give it an edge, while Zambia's adoption of solar mini-grids positions it as a regional innovator. 2. Climate finance. Access to financing is critical for scaling renewables. The IMF estimates that $25 billion annually in climate finance could boost sub-Saharan Africa's renewable electricity production by 24% and GDP by 0.8%. Developed nations must increase concessional loans and grants to support countries like Zambia. 3. Policy and governance. Strong regulatory frameworks, as seen in the UK's Offshore model, ensure stability and attract investment. Zambia's streamlined approvals and refit strategy demonstrate the importance of policy reform in developing nations. 4. Geopolitical dynamics. Energy leadership is tied to geopolitical influence. China's investments in Africa give it leverage, but Western partnerships like the UK's Arkan program offer alternatives that prioritize sustainability and governance. 5. Climate resilience. Countries that balance energy security with climate resilience will lead. Zambia's diversification away from hydropower and the UK's integration of wind and nuclear address this need, but global coordination is essential to manage climate risks. Who will lead? No single nation is likely to dominate the future of power. Instead, leadership will emerge from a combination of technological pioneers. Countries like the UK with advanced R&D will drive innovation. Resource-rich regions. Africa, with its solar and wind potential, will play a growing role if financing and infrastructure gaps are addressed. Collaborative models. Partnerships, such as those between the UK and Zambia, will shape a distributed leadership model, leveraging complementary strengths. The UK's established infrastructure and Zambia's rapid renewable adoption suggest that both will contribute significantly, with the UK leading in technology and policy and Zambia emerging as a regional hub for solar innovation. Global leadership will depend on equitable collaboration, ensuring that developing nations have access to the resources and knowledge needed to thrive in the energy transition. Conclusion: the UK's offshore wind and nuclear power race and Zambia's solar energy boom reflect the diverse pathways to a sustainable energy future. The UK's leadership in advanced technologies and policy frameworks contrasts with Zambia's rapid adaptation to climate challenges through solar expansion. Together, these strategies highlight the importance of innovation, investment, and international cooperation in driving the green revolution. Technologies like floating wind, solar mini-grids, and SMRs are transforming the energy landscape, while global partnerships are addressing financing and equity challenges. The future of power will likely be led by a coalition of nations and regions, with the UK and Zambia playing pivotal roles in their respective contexts. By leveraging their strengths and learning from each other, they can contribute to a resilient, low-carbon world.